Hello everyone. American Airlines Flight 11 takes off from Boston International Airport headed for the Los Angeles International Airport. 92 people are on board this flight, and 15 minutes after takeoff, five hijackers take control of the plane. They forcefully get into the cockpit and turn the plane towards New York. Specifically, they were going for the World Trade Centers, one of the most iconic buildings at the time in the US. This plane crashed into the Northern Tower. This took place at 8:46 in the morning. Next, people get to know the United Airlines Flight 175 has also been hijacked by five hijackers. Again, the hijackers take control of the plane and take the plane towards New York City. This time, they were headed to crash into the Southern Tower. So, a few minutes later, news came that the hijackers crashed the plane in the Southern Tower. Both towers had been crashed in. At the time, President Bush was in a school with students in Florida. His secretary told him what event had happened, yet he chose to remain with the students. The news had spread everywhere that two planes had crashed into the World Trade Center towers. Next, news came that two more planes have been hijacked: American Airlines Flight 77 and the United Airlines Flight 93. They both took off from Washington, D.C. and New Jersey, respectively. Each one of these flights had four hijackers. Again, they forcefully take control of the plane. The hijackers in both these planes turned the plane towards the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. American Airlines Flight 77 purposely crashed into the Pentagon by the terrorists. The Pentagon is the headquarters for the Department of Defense of the United States. By this time, after the third crash into the Pentagon, the entire airspace of the United States had been shut down. Coming back to the South Tower, by 10 a.m., the structure of the South Tower had become so weak due to the crash and fire caused by it, so the whole building collapsed. Now, people on the fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, received phone calls and messages about three major and tragic aviation crashes that had occurred in their country. They realized that this plane would also be crashed in some location like the others, claiming more lives. So, very bravely, the passengers in the plane fought the terrorists and crashed the plane in an empty field near Pennsylvania. By 10:30, the northern tower of the World Trade Center had also collapsed. Around 3,000 people had died and 6,000 people were injured in all of these tragic events that day. The main suspects for these attacks were Osama bin Laden and the terrorist group Al Qaeda. Osama bin Laden denied taking responsibility for these attacks. However, 3 years later, in 2004, Osama bin Laden took full responsibility for this attack. Osama says Al Qaeda and him conducted this attack due to many reasons, including the US's interference in the Middle East, supporting Israel, sanctions on Iraq, collaboration with Saudi Arabia, and supporting activity against Muslims in Lebanon. These are reasons Osama gave on why they conducted this attack. But how was this attack actually carried out? To take revenge on the US, Al Qaeda trained 19 people for this attack. Out of these people, 15 were from Saudi Arabia, 2 were from UAE, and 1 was from Egypt, and 1 more was from Lebanon. These terrorists had already reached the US a year before the attack. They were taking many flights in the US so they could understand how to execute this plan and the amount of time they would have in each flight. These people sent this information to Al Qaeda via email in code language. And finally, on September 11, 2001, they get into their respective flights as planned to hijack and eventually crash these planes. Now, this attack had a huge impact on the everyday life of people around the world. The biggest being they increased airport security. Before the attack in 2001, proper security checks did not occur on airports all over the world. But after the 9/11 attacks, many security improvements have been made in airports all over the world through full body checks, ID checks, and luggage checks. Many other systems were involved that ensured the safety of people on board airplanes. Overall, this attack had a huge impact on the whole world. What other ways did this attack help the population of the world in the aviation sector? Thank you for listening.